This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. My name is Eben Jansen. The show is live. It's broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. We're also streaming live on YouTube right now with a whole show available on our YouTube channel on demand. Today, we look at the meteoric rise of drugs in the townships of South Africa. Farming has been identified as a key job creator in the future economy of this country. And then, will you have to pay to listen to the radio in the future? Katrine will talk about that a little bit later, but first she gives us a news update.
Well, hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Katrine Malan, and let's take a look at the top stories this morning. A Twitter campaign is urging users not to view or share the graphic footage of American journalist James Foley being beheaded by Islamic State militants. This while U.S. military has launched fresh airstrikes against strongholds in Iraq and despite threats to execute a second U.S. journalist. President Barack Obama says they will do anything necessary to see that justice is done.
No faith teaches people to massacre innocents. No just God would stand for what they did yesterday and what they do every single day. ISIL has no ideology of any value to human beings. Their ideology is bankrupt.
Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza were once again at war last night, a day after peace talks in Cairo crumbled. This as the death toll in Gaza rose well above 2,000. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu compared the Hamas movement in Gaza to the Islamic State, calling the two groups a branch of the same tree. Then back in South Africa, Eskom's newly appointed CEO's first task will be to help the power utility present a credible long-term plan to rating agencies by the middle of next month. That's according to Public Enterprises Minister Lynn Brown, who announced Tsediso Matona's appointment to the position in Cape Town yesterday. Matona, who is the current Director General of the Department of Public Enterprises, will start his new job next month. Then in the courtroom today, an official from the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in Gauteng who allegedly raped a woman in his office is expected to appear in court today. The court official had apparently tried to solicit a bribe from the woman for failing to appear in court last week. He was arrested on Tuesday and his firearm was confiscated. He could possibly face a charge of rape and attempted murder.
This particular woman can get a request from the SABC to get him tested with or without his consent for the HIV testing, so that we know whether he was deliberately infecting her because he knew that he was HIV positive and probably thought that she was bluffing when she was HIV positive, and then we can add another charge in terms of the sexual offences.
Well, remember, all these top stories are available on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katrine. Escalating levels of drugs, alcohol and substance abuse have prompted government to design a special program aimed at eradicating the widespread problem in the township. Social Development Minister Batabile Dlamini says the 6-month intensive program will assist in dealing with the problem. Drugs and substance abuse, especially nyaope, affect youth between the ages of 12 and 16, mostly in black residential areas here in South Africa. A non-governmental organization, a Seed to a Flower Projects in Soweto, has managed to help and rehabilitate a number of youth addicted to nyaope. Now, in the studio, we have the founder of Seed to a Flower Projects, Ermin Masemola, with us. We've also got Khomotso Tele, who is a young man recovering from the effects of addiction. Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Morning.
Also with us, a youth who will only go by the name of Tabiso. Is going to share his experiences with us, but he does not want to be seen on camera. He's got his back towards the camera here, but he'll give us an insight as to how widespread and how they are battling to deal with this problem. But let's start at the beginning. I want to start with you, Ermin, and I want to talk about the last decade and the rise of drugs in the township. And if you can paint us the picture of how quickly and how readily available this has become and how quickly it's happened.
Yes, It started a while back, but people didn't take note of it, especially parents.
Yeah.
They were not. It was not in their eyes, but it happened at schools and everything in Soweto. So people used to take drugs, and it became something that it was passed from generation to generation until it escalated now that it's something that they cannot even contain, that it's being done at every corner, at every place. You know, it's something that's coming in fashion now. It's an in thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to bridge a gap from this generation to the coming generation. Because this generation right now is highly addicted. I have like 80 people who are addicted on this substance called nyaupe. And it's also ravishing the families as well. You know, it's breaking the homesteads and everything. So I'm trying to get through to the youth because I'm a youth myself.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a motivational speaker as well. So I'm trying to get through to them. I speak to them whenever I get a chance. Whenever I see them, I just call them and say, listen, do you want to quit or do you still want to go on?
Yeah.
And then the answer you'll get is that they want to quit. They didn't get in there intentionally. They just wanted to, you know, experiment, and that experiment got them in the dark hole of some sort. So I'm just appealing to the government to try to help us to be able to eradicate this problem.
It seems that some help is on the way now with this program, but Khomotso, I wanted to ask you, we heard Erman say how easy it is to get involved without really wanting. Nobody wants to be an addict, am I right? Yeah. How did you become involved in this?
Basically, I won't tell you, but I was getting here because of my friends, because I wanted to experiencing is not right, because you're getting along with knowing it every day, you're smoking every day, and you're getting addicted.
And how difficult is it to stop?
No, it's too difficult. When nobody can tell himself that I want to stay at home and I want to leave this thing because it's too hard, my friend.
And then let's talk about the cost. Because, you know, in the past, drugs have been made out to be an expensive habit, more for the middle classes and upper classes of our society. But now it's become very affordable to be high for an entire day in the townships in South Africa. How affordable, what sort of price range, if for lack of a better word, are we looking at?
We're looking at 30 rand for a packet of nyaupe, and they mix it with dacha. So they have to smoke like 10 times a day. So they have to use 30 rands to be able to smoke. So what they do is that they have to hustle through to get a high. In order to do that, they either have to steal, and you know, and there can be too much trouble involved in there. So it's just a problematic situation. It
is a problematic situation, but government is about to step in with a program for the next 6 months, a special program announced by Social Development Minister Batabile Dlamini. Let's have a look at what's on the cards.
I smoke this thing because of peer pressure of friends. That's why I smoke. And it's difficult to leave it. But I need help to go to rehab.
Well, just tell us the story. What are these guys doing on camera now, Erman?
Right now, they're trying to mix the nyaupe with the dacha so that they can be able to smoke. They smoke in different ways. Yeah. There are different ways to smoke it. They mix it with dacha so that they can get the high that they want. They cannot live without the high because they get sick if they don't smoke. So they get cramps in the stomach, hence they don't eat. They don't even take bath at times because of not being high.
So you lose a lot of weight, you become quite skinny, because you don't have an appetite to eat. What is in this drug, though? A lot of reports are out there. People put Ratex and all kinds of other stuff in it. In your experience, what is in nyaupe?
What they put in nyaupe, there are many chemicals that have been taken off drugs that they put in. They take many substances from the drugs that was used, maybe the crumbs of the drugs that was used. They put it in there. They use Ratex sometimes. They use so many chemicals that we don't even know. I heard that they even put Vim in it.
Yeah, you don't really know what's in there. I want to go to Tabiso now, who's got his back turned to the camera for us, Tabiso. Tabiso, just tell us your story and how easy it is to obtain nyaope now in the townships?
It's easy if you were not pressurized by your friends, if you wanted to try. For me, it was not difficult for it to quit, because I never put it in mind to smoke it every day.
Tell me about working with Seed to a Flower project and how they are helping you to come to terms with the addiction and get off the drug.
They helped me a lot, because now I'm starting to fix cars. Now I know how to fix cars. That's the only thing that they helped me with.
And how did you get into taking drugs? And what was the first drug that you experimented with?
It was weed.
It was weed was the first one. And
Yeah.
how did you progress from weed to taking other drugs then?
No, the only drug that I took was only weed.
And then you started to put nyaope with it a bit later on.
Yes.
So you would say that the weed is the gateway to taking the other drugs in the townships because it is so affordable.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you very much. Tabiso is what the young man wants us to call him today. I want to come to you, Erman, and talk about youth today. What is it that makes them tick? It seems as if all youth today are quite secretive about their lives and about what they do. Is that part of the problem? And when you help them, do you ask them for full disclosure? They must tell you the whole story of what they do?
Yes, the youth today, it's just like the youth in any other day. It's just that we have to understand them and understand their mindset, how they think and everything. The thing is, for them to get into the drug world is that, especially in Soweto, there isn't enough entertainment and everything. So there's nothing to do. And the jobs, they don't have jobs as well.
Yeah.
So they tend to actually go through to the drugs as a place for resorting their problems and their frustrations and everything. This is a cry-out message for South Africa and the world at large that they are crying for help, and we need people to stand up there and to do something about it, because now it's going to destroy this youth.
An entire generation, you say, are at risk really right now in our townships in South Africa.
That's how it is, because these kids who are smoking nyaope are becoming role models for our kids that are coming from the next generation. So when they are role models, the kids are going to look up to them and resort to this very same thing. So it's going to be problematic for the whole world, and this is going to ravish the world in a big way, believe you me.
Khomotso, now you've gone through the rehabilitation process. What are you going to do once this process is finished? How are you going to stay off this thing?
I will be able to encourage other people at the location where I'm living to tell them that this is not the end of the world. You've got to do something with your life.
I want to go to Tabiso. Tabiso, if you can just tell us quickly, how difficult did you find it to stop taking nyaope? And tell us about the symptoms or the withdrawals that you feel when you stop taking this thing. What are the sensations you go through?
No, I was not like, it was not like I was too into it. I used to smoke it in times. I was not a full smoker every day. I used to smoke maybe once a week or twice a week, but I saw that this thing, man, is going to kill my system. So I started quitting, but it was difficult in times to quit. But I started getting something to do, started fixing cars. That's what I liked. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tabiso. I just want to tell for those of you, the young man, he's not Tabiso, is not his real name. He's decided to come into the studio today to talk to us about the problems he's had with these drugs, but he's not prepared to put his face on camera, and I think everyone can understand the reasons why. Erman, let's talk about the program quickly before we move on. At the end of this program, the youth must be reintegrated. Tabiso talks about how a job working with cars has helped him. How can the program that you have ensure that these guys have work? How do you get that kind of support then?
Actually, I have a company that it's go-kart cycling. I've integrated with Rea Vaya. We're in the process of fixing that so that we can be able to create jobs for them. So that will give us a close look at them. You know, we're going to encourage them to stay off drugs and everything. After they've went to the rehabilitation center, we get them jobs so that they can be able to keep their minds busy. Because if a mind is an idling mind is the devil's playground. So this is a spiritual form of drug, so it's going to get through to many kids in the future if we don't.
And how many youth in Soweto have you helped with this program so far?
I have 80 that in my program, but the government is helping me out with walls and an office as well in Soweto. So I can be able to get through to them, speak to them, have regular meetings with them as well, you know, to try to carve this thing out.
Khomotso, tell us, where do you think you would be today without the help of someone like Erman to deal with this problem?
No, I wouldn't be here today to get help because this guy, man, he's helping us a lot at our community.
And Thabiso, let's get a final word from you before we wrap it up. Thabiso, what is your advice to young people who are looking to get involved with drugs or are involved with drugs at the moment?
Is to keep their mind busy, to do something, because here in Soweto there's nothing that we can do, basically, because people, they get bored. There's a lot of, they get bored, yeah.
And what about parents? Did your parents know what you were involved in and what you were doing at the time or not?
Not.
No, not at all?
Yes.
So you tell parents to keep an eye on their children as well.
Yeah.
Eben, is that the sort of final message, that parents have some responsibility to look at what their children are involved in and who they are mixing with?
We have to keep an eye on our children. We have to know what our children get up to every single day. And we need parents to come on board as well and help us to help the kids to get out of the system of drugs.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Very disturbing, really, that an entire generation of young people in South Africa. Thabiso, thank you for joining us today. Erman, thank you, and Khomotso, for giving us a little insight into what is happening in our townships right now. There's a pandemic. It's drug abuse that's sweeping through the townships of South Africa. It's very affordable. It takes young children, could be your child, into the streets, and at times they get involved in criminality to pay for this addiction. It's a problem that is all of ours here in South Africa. Let's take a quick look at what's happening on social media, what you are saying. Nakakwa says, South Africa's latest drug cocktail ruining lives. Nayope is heroin cut with ARVs sprinkled over marijuana rolled into a cigarette, she says. I think there might be a lot of other stuff in there as well. Queen of Sheba the First says, South African black youth getting hooked on nyaope, a mix of heroin, rat poison, ... You decide what you want to put in there. Paul says, you like those boys on nyaope, but you know it worth it way. I don't know what you're saying, Paul. Anyhow, heroin, meth, nyaope, wunga, coming through harbour ports, more criminal than hemp, marijuana growing at the Parliament of the Republic. Of course, the discussion around marijuana for medical use is one that we've had for the entire week here on Newsroom. Let's take a look now at the front pages from around the globe today. Of course, let's start in the United States, where most newspapers, well, they're reporting on the brutal execution of James Foley by Islamist militants. There you will see a picture of his grieving parents on the front page of the Miami Herald. In Australia, papers are also looking at the execution of Foley, and in Nigeria, the Vanguard is reporting on the federal and Lagos state governments differing on the number of new suspected cases of Ebola in that country. The deadly virus has claimed the lives of more than 1,350 people by now. That's since the start of the outbreak earlier this year. Time for us to Well, not go to a break. Today, we wish ANC stalwart Ahmed Kathrada a very happy 85th birthday. Kathrada, a former political prisoner on Robben Island, and our anti-apartheid activist plans on spending the morning with pupils in Lenasia here in Johannesburg. His Ahmed Kathrada Foundation said in a statement he felt it important to celebrate the day with young South Africans. What a fantastic man. You're watching Newsroom. We'll be back after a short break.
The Swaziland Tourism Authority invited Kaleidoscope on a media tour of what has become known as the Little Switzerland of Africa, the Kingdom of Swaziland. The Mantanga Waterfall is one of Swaziland's best known and most accessible waterfalls, as it can be seen within 50 meters.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Healthy food is not always the cheapest food option, and so making the healthy choices, the easier choices, remain a health challenge for South African children.
Bipolar disorder is said to affect 1 in 100 people.
Low back pain, the most common spinal disorder, affects about 8 out of 10 people at some point in their lives.
Back pain persists for more than a week or two. Seek advice.
I'm Dr. Cyril Mutau. Watch Health Talk every Saturday on SABC.
South Africans survived 2014. Many of us actually were given bursaries by state-owned enterprises, but the state shrunk, telecom was privatized, and now you are sitting with huge unemployed people, but huge backlogs in terms of infrastructure that could develop the same young people.
It's in our hands, and our future is up to us. It's a tough year, and tough decisions will have to be made by the government. It's an election year, which makes it difficult to make tough decisions. I mean, it's tough to make tough decisions. It's especially tough in an election year.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays 2 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You still with Newsroom on SABC News. Now, in recent years, government has identified emerging farming as one of the main contributors to job creation in the agricultural industry. This weekend, the Jacaranda Agricultural Show will provide a business-to-business platform where farmers and the agricultural industry can network and explore new opportunities. The show will also be a leading exhibition hub for agriculture, livestock farming, alternative energy and organic agriculture. But to tell us more about this exciting week-long event, we are joined by the CEO of Trabak and the show itself, Mr. Wim de Tooy. Good morning, sir.
Hello, everyone.
The Jacaranda Show is previously known as the Pretoria Show, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed.
Just tell us, it seems the show's sort of turned over a new leaf. What can we expect?
Agriculture. In one word, agriculture. For the past 74 years, the Pretoria Show, as most of our viewers will know it, was a consumer show. The market has changed, the demand has changed, and we followed that cue, and we decided to focus on agriculture only for the last 3 years. And like you've correctly pointed out, business-to-business platform, the intention being to allow the farmers and the whole of the value chain to interact, to network, to find new supplies, to find new markets, to get new information in respect of new farming practices, the use of technology, all of that.
The one thing is the workshop where 300 emerging farmers will be attending the show. Tell us about these farmers and what the sort of long-term view of this is, as this is one of the key initiatives that government wants to see in the future more emerging farmers.
Indeed. Transformation in its broadest sense, in the sense particularly of inculcating an interest among the youth in agriculture, from primary school, secondary school, and then for school leavers. And that's where the focus of this venture between Living Land and SABC, Land Bank, GDART, where it lies, is to get these farmers to focus and to be empowered to really become commercial entrepreneurs. The program this year I found very interesting. The one is for poultry farming in your backyard, where you can really do a commercial one on a small scale. And the other one is the increasing use of technology in farming, even cellular technology. And that is amazing how you can actually use this new technology to increase or improve your farming practices.
That's incredible. Technology is really changing the game across the board, but I would think in farming especially, you can really increase yield and quality quite a lot by using technology.
Very much. I'm a novice. But what I see and hear from the exhibitors and the suppliers at the show, indeed.
Now, farming in the future is not just about growing food at the end of the day. It ties in with alternative energy, organics, and the like. How is the show going to deal with this and then introduce all these new people or new emerging farmers in this space?
You remind me of a saying I read on the internet the other day, that once in your life you will need a physician, you will need a doctor, you will need at least an undertaker.
Yeah.
But 3 times a day you need a farmer. And that really made me think. And what we're doing at the show now is to introduce all these new concepts to introduce or to improve the profitable utilization of the land, the soil that we have so much of.
Yeah.
And alternative energy, integrated farming in particular, there's a working model at the show where people can come and look at the integrated farming model, including fish, aquaponics, hydroponics.
We always hear that farming in South Africa is, one wouldn't say at crisis point, but faces a lot of challenges. In this 21st century now and looking forward, what are the main challenges that the farming community of South Africa is faced with?
In my personal opinion, I think it is to get the youth in particular back to the land. There are so many, not only farming as a vocation opportunities, but also entrepreneurship opportunities. If you think of the whole value chain of agriculture, it really is amazing as to the extent, from your inputs, your insecticides, your herbicides, everything of that, the farmer himself, and then also the off-takers, the markets. It's an incredible part of the South African economy. And if we can get the youth to come back to the farm and to become entrepreneurs in agriculture, I think we will see a change.
And what's the appetite amongst young people? You know, they play PlayStation today, they watch too much TV. Is there an appetite amongst young people to get back to the land in a way?
I don't know, but I can tell you this. It's one of the objectives of the show, to inculcate that kind of interest again. And I want the Stadsjapi to go and see and realize that's where milk actually comes from. You never knew that. Milk comes from a shelf, isn't it?
It's true. It's like, you know, the old joke. They asked a young boy to draw a picture of a chicken, and he drew a picture of a bribe pack that they pick up in the supermarket. So that's where, finally, just quickly before I let you go, tell us, where can our viewers get more details if they would like to get involved with the show or even go to the show?
Oh, they would be most welcome at the Tswana Event Centre with the old Pretoria Showgrounds in Pretoria West. And they can get all the information from our website, www.jacarandashow.co.za. They can phone 012-327-1487.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Wim de Tooy, who is the CEO of the Jacaranda Agricultural Show as well. Thank you. And go there and show your children where chickens actually do come from. It's very important. We eat a lot of them. Let's take a quick look at what's been happening on social media. Once again, what you are talking about this morning. Of course, we were talking about drugs a little bit earlier, and that's a real problem. Take them to the agricultural show and keep them away from drugs. Jocelyn says, educate yourselves, promote awareness, donate ALS. ALS, of course, is a disease that is very much in in the news at the moment, of course, there's the Ice Bucket Challenge, and we'll talk about or show you something about that just now. Doing my Ice Bucket Challenge later today, and we'll show you, I think Bill Gates was a guy who did it, US van der Westhuizen did it, Linda Kutle-Similani says, for the Ice Bucket Challenge, we would like to nominate Eben Jansen. Unfortunately, I can't. I've got a bit of a cough at the moment, so I can't jump in an ice bucket. Lindu, thank you very much. There we have some pictures of people doing the Ice Bucket Challenge all around the world. Everyone's getting involved. Pop idols, actors, actresses take on the Ice Bucket Challenge, of course, to deal with ALS as it is known now. What's happening on our Facebook page? Today, there you will see that the Namibian Ministry of Health has started using infrared hand scanners at Hosea Kotako International Airport outside of Windhoek to detect Ebola in passengers arriving at the airport there. You'll also see that the South African Mining Development Association has called on government to demand remedial action against mining companies that fail to comply with the 2014 transformation and empowerment targets of the Mining Charter, and that the UN Security Council has called upon Israel and Palestine to resume negotiations to urgently reach a sustainable and lasting ceasefire. You can find all of those stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page. Now, this week, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge that raises awareness around amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I got that one right. A disease that attacks the nerve cells in the body that control all of our muscles became an internet sensation, with celebs across the globe drenching themselves with buckets of ice water. Now, I can't because I've got a bit of a chest at the moment. Bill Gates was one of those brave souls who did this. Let's have a quick look at how he completed his Ice Bucket Challenge.
I'm glad to give to ALS. It's a great cause, but I want to accept this challenge. I want to do it better than it's been done. Been working on this, you know, got this design. There we go. Yeah. It's going to be great. I'm here to join the people bringing attention to Lou Gehrig's disease by taking the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I'm going to challenge 3 more people: Elon Musk, Ryan Seacrest, and Chris Anderson of TED. Consider yourself challenged. You have 24 hours. Good luck.
Zoom into Africa. This is Senegal. The president is Mr. Macky Sall. Senegal withdrew from the Mali Federation on 20 August in 1960. The population is more than 13 million people. One of the major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Sports Live, the show that brings you the latest local and international news, live interviews with the who's who in sport. He's the first South African to wear a yellow jersey that was at the Tour de France this year.
It's the first time that we get a boxer who's recognized by the Ring magazine as the best fighter in the planet to visit our country.
And he's very close to world record pace. And in fact, it is a new world record.
When you cross the line, what went through one's mind?
None of the 4 of us knew where it won. The scoreboard is always on the left, but all of us tend to the right. No, we just waited for the country to go down. RSA.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome to our Friday edition of A View from the House, coming to you live from Parliament. My name is Asanda Mbeche. President Jacob Zuma officially opens the National House of Traditional Leaders and calls on traditional leaders to work closely with elected public representatives.
South Africa is a much better place to live in
than it was before 1994. Many of our traditional leaders can attest to that fact, having seen improvements.
A View from the House, weekdays at 2:30 on SABC News.
Well, welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at the top stories this morning. A Twitter campaign is urging users not to view or share the graphic footage of American journalist James Foley being beheaded by Islamic State militants. This while U.S. military has launched fresh airstrikes against strongholds in Iraq and despite threats to execute a second U.S. journalist. President Barack Obama says they will do anything necessary to see that justice is done. Then back in South Africa, Eskom's newly appointed CEO's first task will be to help the power utility present a credible long-term plan to rating agencies by the middle of next month. That's according to Public Enterprises Minister Lynn Brown, who announced Tediso Matona's appointment to the position in Cape Town yesterday. Matona, who is the current Director General of the Department of Public Enterprises, will start his new job next month. Then in the courtroom today, an official from the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in Gauteng, who allegedly raped a woman in his office, is expected to appear in court today. The court official had apparently tried to solicit a bribe from the woman for failing to appear in court last week. He was arrested on Tuesday and his firearm was confiscated. He could possibly face a charge of rape and attempted murder. Now remember, all these top stories are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Now, top international radio expert Sam Crowther is currently in South Africa addressing the annual Radio Works conference hosted by the Radio Advertising Bureau that started on the 19th of August and runs till today. The conference, themed Radio Real Personal, provides a platform for those in radio to tackle issues affecting the industry while sharing best practice and getting cutting-edge solutions from other countries. Sam Crowther joins us today in studio. Sam, welcome to Newsroom.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's just firstly start off with a little bit of your background in areas of where you specialize in.
My background is radio through and through, but my fascination with sound started very early because I'm completely deaf in my right ear. And when I was a child, I had mumps, so I had to sit through hearing tests, and I became fascinated by sound, and I was quite slow at reading and writing. But there's a theory that your right ear is better at listening to language and talking, and your left ear is better at music. So I went to a musical school and I caught up. So I've been fascinated by that relationship between sound and music and how the brain works ultimately.
And now you're traveling the globe telling us about the power of sound.
The power of sound, yes.
Tell me, South Africa, what have you come across? Our radio scene, how does it compare globally?
It's fantastic. It's very vibrant. You've got a full range. You have absolutely, at your top end of creativity, you win international awards. And the quality of your work is absolutely outstanding. And then you go right down the scale, all over, down to community radio stations in townships that are incredibly vibrant. And from everything that I've heard, and I've heard quite a bit of radio while I've been here, it's great, it's vibrant and it's strong.
I want to know the importance of community and campus radio stations.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where people start. I mean, radio is a very democratic medium in some ways because it's very cheap to kind of set up a radio station. So setting them up in campuses or in the UK, we have hospital radio. And a lot of DJs start off presenting on hospital radio, but that's a great way to practice and learn your craft, your skill. And so community radio stations are essential because they can be much braver than the big national broadcasters, which, you know, you have to be a bit more sort of aware of your audience and your figures and things, but community radio is fantastic. Yeah.
You have a lot of critics saying that radio is a dying medium. What do you say to that?
Absolutely not. I think the word radio possibly is a dying phrase, but audio communication is essential. You can't drive a car, you can't get your kids ready for school, you can't do DIY and look at things and pay your attention elsewhere. So sound is incredibly important to communication, and it's understood in many ways. You know, the human brain takes in 40 million bits of information every single second. It can only consciously process 1 millionth, so 40 bits of information. So there's a huge amount of subliminal communication that goes on, particularly with sound.
Then moving on, we're seeing a rise in internet radio stations. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I think it's the way that media is going as a whole is on demand. You know, TV viewing in the UK has completely changed. People don't watch programs in a linear state. They choose what programs they want to watch, and the same's true of radio potentially in the future. That it understands which football team you support or which road you're actually on if you're listening through an intelligent device. So internet radio stations have that potential because they know who you are, where you are,
and they can on demand.
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, me being a Liverpool football fan, if they played in the Champions League, I can get the commentary from that match when I want it, not that I've just missed it because it was on 10 minutes ago.
Now, radio is often considered as a free medium. Will internet radio then mean that there might be costs involved?
Potentially, but I think what we're finding in most markets is that FM and AM will stick around for a long time, and because of its cheap cost. But internet radio will continue to grow, and as the cost comes down, that it will become more accessible. There might be some sort of hybrid in between where you can listen to an FM signal on a device and then it can switch to an internet-connected device so that you can get the bespoke audio content when you want it through that, so you're not paying for a constant stream. But in the UK, we're seeing a huge increase in digital listening. In the company I work for, Bauer Media, about 50% of our total listening is now on a digital device.
Now, as you mentioned, everything is on demand these days. We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, you've got everything on demand. Radio as a news medium, where's that going?
Well, I think it'll still be there. But the difference is that Twitter, yeah, we look at Twitter and we see the news feeds, but it's that interpretation into an audio signal. So when you're doing something else, because we're leading such busy lives, that radio still will fit in that. Well, certainly an audio message, a news message, will fit in that environment. Because, yeah, driving a car and being on Twitter is not a good thing to do. Don't do that. You know, you have an accident.
Now, the Radio Works conference was started on the 19th of August and it ends today, if I'm correct. People, if they want to know more, if they want to get in touch with you, perhaps, where can they do that?
Well, I mean, through the sort of social media channels of LinkedIn and searching me online. But yeah, the conference is going at the moment, and I'm presenting later this afternoon. But I do this sort of Power Sound presentation, which is a very experiential presentation in that I just talk and I tell a story of sound while there's audio going on subliminally underneath. And it's good fun, and people really enjoy it.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we'll be uploading all of this information to our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also read more about the Radio Works workshop there. Sam Crowther, international radio expert, joining us this morning. Eben is standing by with our digital team to see what they got up to this week.
Yeah, very interesting, but not everyone's perfect. Unfortunately, Sam is a Liverpool supporter. Time for us to look at what's been happening in the online space with SABC's digital senior multimedia producer, Matiba Mutewana. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here, Ivan.
Interesting week for us historically. Nathaniel Natnakasa's remains, day before yesterday, arrived back in South Africa. A big day for, I would think, the struggle journalists among us. Just tell us, how did we reflect this on all our platforms?
Okay, so Natnakasa's body finally made its way, his remains made their way back to South Africa this week. And the SABC and digital news, we covered that all the way from America, where his family got to see his grave for the first time, almost 5 decades later after his passing. And his sister made comments about this. She was very moved by seeing the grave for the first time. And we followed that all the way till his arrival back in South Africa. As you can see, this is his sister talking about him and how she feels after seeing his grave for the first time. And so he came back, got a great welcoming back. But also a lot of stories have come from that, where people are starting to, like, if you ask an average teenager who is Natnakasa, half of them won't know who he is, or they'll say, oh, he's a struggle hero. And they won't know who he is, that he was a journalist. Yeah. And it also put a spotlight on different kinds of struggles in South Africa, how some people fought using music and other people decided to go and study and they risked never coming back to their countries just to go and study. And so, yeah, so we're covering it, as you can see there. If you go into the SABC website, you'll be able to see different stories relating to it. There's also stories of his family having some history of depression and people talking a lot on social media about the causes for his death. Did he jump? Was he pushed? All those things. And we'll be covering that right until his burial next month on the 30th of September.
Very interesting. Of course, depression is very much in the headlines the last couple of weeks with Robin Williams passing and the like. And it's something that many people are dealing quietly with. If you're feeling that you are getting too low, go and get some help. Let's talk about the real threat on the continent right now, the Ebola virus. There have been a lot of red herrings here in South Africa, people talking about a boat full of Ebola victims parked off Richards Bay. The one thing we can confirm is that one person traveling from Liberia has been tested, and they tested negative 2 days ago in South Africa. That's it, right?
Yes, a lot of people are scared, and you know, there's this telephone thing where somebody says something and then you get a ripple effect, and at the end of the day you hear a completely different story. In South Africa so far, there have been no cases of Ebola confirmed. The rest of Africa, Western Africa, the number is growing, scarily so, and it's gone to 1,350. That's what the World Health Organization has confirmed so far. And what we're doing online is trying to at least educate people on what symptoms, if you see these symptoms, this could be it, and what to avoid. And so far, this is something that we have online, which is an infographic.
So they say it comes from the fruit bat.
Yes.
The chicken of the cave.
Yes, and the thing is, they're saying that it comes from the fruit bat, but that's also it's a possibility that it comes from the fruit bat. And people should avoid eating wild meat and touching objects that might be infected, and you can get that through saliva and everything. And some symptoms, like the people who in South Africa who are suspected of having Ebola, they had fever symptoms and they're being treated for fever. And some of the symptoms are very close to fever. You get fever, so you get like really hot and symptoms like that. Yeah. And so just keep an eye out. But in South Africa so far we are fine. Now the scary thing is that it continues to grow in the rest of West Africa. But South African government is doing a lot to try to keep it out of our borders, which is good news for us.
Of course, you got pictures of the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital here in Johannesburg, where that person from Liberia tested negative for the Ebola virus. And there's no need for us to be hysterical. Nobody in South Africa has contracted it yet, and it seems as if we are starting to get a handle of it. But let's move on quickly. The one thing that's worrying me, civilian aid operations seem to be in the crossfire. We see in Gaza recently aid workers being bombed and attacked and so forth, UN compounds being bombed and attacked. That's very worrying, and attacks seem to be on a big upward spike.
Yes, that's a really big day in the world that happened earlier this week. We celebrated World Humanitarian Day, and this is celebrating people who give their time to go and help other people in other countries. You know, the people who are going to help people who are suffering from, who have Ebola. And these are people who go, you know what, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to help the rest of the world and other people. Some of them don't even get paid. And so the highlight for this year was a lot of attacks. These people get attacked in many different ways. They go to war-torn areas and they get either they get mugged or they get attacked or things like that. And that's a really big problem because these people are giving off their time. And as of this year, for example, the number of attacks has spiked by 66% compared to last year.
That is massive.
And that is massive. You know, for example, if you go onto the SABC website, we've got a story on it with a map, and you also get to see a report based on that. And you can see that in 2013, for example, there have been 251 attacks on people,
on aid workers.
Aid workers, and that's affected about 460 people.
Yeah, that's
so it's
numbers,
really terrible.
The numbers are not good, but
yeah, and even just now in 2014, for example, 79 workers have been affected by some form of attack. and we're just not even at the end of the year yet. So you can see how bad it is.
Well, if you are doing good, it seems that nobody's being spared. But thank you, Matiba, for joining us today, giving us a quick window into what's happening on our digital platforms. Of course, SABC News, we live, we are live on all our digital platforms all of the time. Thank you once again, Matiba. Newsroom, broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon. If you've missed it this morning, a rebroadcast in the following morning at 5 a.m. We also stream live on YouTube at that time, and the whole show is available on demand on our YouTube channel. So you've got no excuse if you missed it at all. This is SABC News. You have been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.
Your world.